This is episode 65 of the Back of the Class podcast. I'm Ben.
I'm Glenn.
Before we start off this week's episode, we'd like to say a huge thank you to our sponsors: Members First Credit Union, Balgriffin Inn, Pitchside Pizza and Grill, VIR Electrical, Coco's Cakes and Orem. And this week we're joined by
Keith Barry, brain hacker and mentalist and all-round weirdo.
Thanks for coming in. For the listeners who may not know who you are or what you do, introduce yourself and what do you think they'll learn off this episode?
Yeah, so I'm a brain hacker. I started off as a magician when I was 5 and then started learning hypnosis when I was 14. And now 50% of the time I hack brains just for fun, and the other 50% of the time I work with companies all over around the world to help their employees bring their mindset to peak performance, and athletes as well. So I work with a lot of professional athletes. So yeah, 50% of it's just for fun. The other 50% is to create meaningful, sustainable change inside people's minds.
Thank you.
When you say change people's minds, say like athletes or something, how would you go about doing that? Would that be just like a internal self-belief you'd plant in them, or would that be like you'd hack them to make them delusional, or what way would that work?
Well, definitely not making delusional on with the athletes, but yeah. So look, a lot of people have problems with their, as you said, their limiting self-beliefs, but the thing is, a lot of that is subconscious rather than conscious. Yeah. And 99.999% of the world, they don't even have a small understanding of how the subconscious mind works. The good news is, for the past 30 years, I've been fascinated with the subconscious mind. So I understand like that we all have the ability to rewire our brain. There's a thing called neuroplasticity, which basically means our brains are malleable. And the good news for somebody like me is I'm 49, right? They thought for years that at around 22, 23 that our brains stop growing. Actually, now we know that if you do the right things, you can grow your brain all the way up into old age, and you can change your brain the whole time. So for me, with, for example, an athlete, my job is to help them create what I call a new neural pathway, because you can actually create a new neural pathway. Now, it takes a certain amount of mental rehearsal and programming to do that. And for one person it could take a day, like they can do it very fast, but most people it takes about 6 weeks to create that new neural pathway. So when I'm working with an athlete, if they've got a problem that they want me to help them resolve, I'll hypnotize them, and then I'll get inside their brain and help them rewire whatever it is that needs to be rewired,
I think I'm really going to enjoy this episode. I'm actually fascinated with the mind the last few months, and how much self-belief really impacts you and how positive thoughts impact you. I've been watching a lot of Brian Tracy, Brian Tracy.
Yeah. And I love this now, the fact that at your age you're listening to Brian Tracy.
Les Brown. Les
Brown, Jesus, this is deadly, lads. There's not too many people your age now listening to those kind of lads.
No, I could be messing up his name, but I think I always listen to him, Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Yeah, Joe Dispenza, yeah.
He's unbelievable.
One of me and Glenn's favourite quotes is, limitation is a creation of the mind.
Yeah.
So basically, how far you think you can go, you probably can. How far you think you can't go, you probably can't. It's a bit like the...
Oh no, it's completely true, yeah. Like, you have to be careful sometimes of these people. So like Brian Tracy, absolutely brilliant, real smart guy. Then Les Brown, like Les was supposed to come over here actually a couple of years ago for the Pendulum Summit. Amazing, fascinating character. Big fan of Les Brown. I really like Joe Dispenza's work. Like, I've read all his books. The one thing I'd say about Joe, dare I say it, is I think Joe overclaims his abilities. So that's the one thing that I kind of don't like, because I come from a scientific background, so I'm a scientist first and foremost, right? So I examine these areas from a scientific background, and sometimes I think when people overclaim what's possible, it kind of sets me off a little bit. But I'm fascinated that at your age you're into this stuff, because I'll tell you what, if you keep studying and going down that rabbit hole of those types of people, you will succeed way above all your contemporaries and the people your age.
When anyone does ask me about it, like, is it really that important who you surround yourself with, or anything like that, or why are you so into who you surround yourself with? Are you familiar with the study they done? I'm not too sure who it was. I heard this on a podcast. It was, they took a group of people from the same office. They sent one of them out skydiving. They sent one of them to a treadmill. Yeah. And they collected their sweat samples, because your brain apparently sweats when you're feeling fear. And they collected the sweat samples from the skydivers and the joggers, and then they got a completely different new group of people in, and they got them to smell the sweat samples and ask them what it was, and people couldn't figure out what it was, but they figured out the people that smelled the sweat samples from the people that were jogging on the treadmill didn't affect them. They didn't nothing sprang to mind, but the people that smelled the sweat samples from the people that went skydiving that was in fear while they were sweating, that kicked in a little thing in the back of their mind where for a second the heart beat a bit faster, and they felt the same fear that them people were skydiving felt for a split second.
It's fascinating. Like the brain is malleable. Like the fact they're even citing studies is brilliant. Like there's a famous basketball study that was done, and it was called the Chicago basketball study. Have you heard of this one?
No.
Yeah, really good. Like, so there's been many done since the Chicago basketball study, but I still find this one the most fascinating. So basically they took 3 basketball teams of equal ability, right? So they all had pretty much the same ability, these teams. So they took one basketball team, and that basketball team, they sat out practice for a month. So in other words, they didn't do anything at all. They didn't practice basketball for a month. They just sat it out. Another team, they sat out practice, but they visualized themselves practicing for the same amount of time that they would have been practicing for. So they didn't do the physical action. They just sat there and they just imagined that they were practicing. And then team number 3 just practiced as normal. Now here's the crazy thing. The team that sat it out, who did nothing for the month, interestingly, their ability didn't decrease, because a month wasn't a long time in basketball terms. So they just stayed the same. Nothing happened. Now, team number 3, who practiced as normal, right, their ability went up by 23%, right? So that's kind of expected. But here's the crazy thing that they found out. The team number 2, their ability increased, and this is the team that just visualized now, remember that. Their ability increased by 22%. There was only a 1% difference between the team that visualized and the team that actually took the physical action. So our brain doesn't know the difference between what we imagine versus what's real. And that's what I find fascinating. And that's why I use hypnosis. And the reason to use hypnosis is we need to get out of our own way. Back to you talking about limiting self-beliefs. So it's our conscious mind that gets us in the way the whole time. That's our mind that's telling us, you can't do that, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you don't have enough money, you don't have enough energy, you don't have enough time. You know, that's impossible. Like, our monkey brain is telling us that all the time. And that's mainly our conscious brain. People think it's the subconscious. It's actually your conscious brain getting in our way. So my job is to quieten that down using hypnosis, and then allows me to jump or hack past that into the subconscious mind. And that's where the real work then can begin, if you know what I mean.
So do you believe if you strongly visualize something and actually like obsess over something and only surround yourself with something, do you think that's bound to happen for you without a doubt?
No. That's a good question though, right? No, because what you're kind of alluding to there, talking about there, is kind of the law of attraction, right? So if you surround yourself by good people, great. If you surround yourself or input the right information, brilliant. But I have a formula that I believe is necessary. So I came up with the formula, and it's my own formula, but I think it's applicable to everybody, right? So instead of the law of attraction, like, there's a lot of people out there talking BS about the law of attraction. What I found interesting, having just met you two guys, like, you've cited 3 people. Even Joe Dispenza, as I said, I'm a fan of his work. Just some of it I question, but ultimately I am a fan, right? You're already studying 3 people that most people aren't studying. Most people are over here looking at the influencer world and people who are talking about the law of attraction. Law of attraction don't go without action, right? So I have this formula. So the formula is SW plus MA times SATT equals GS. Because most people don't know I'm a scientist, right? But I've invented this formula. But it's a very simple formula, even though it sounds like a mouthful, right? So the SW is your subconscious why. So defining your subconscious why is key in life. Like, why is it that you two got, and you don't need to answer this now, but like, why is it that you actually want to be the #1 podcasters in the world? Why is it that we're here in the Axis in Ballymun? Just asking those questions is one thing, but answering them is a whole other thing. But I don't want the conscious answers. I want the subconscious answers, the SW, the subconscious why. So to get your subconscious why, it's very simple. You ask yourself that question. Why is it that I want to be the #1 podcaster in the world? So like, if you were to give me just a quick answer now, go. What would the answer be off the top of your head?
Have a purpose bigger than myself.
Good. So you write that down. You go, to have a purpose bigger than yourself. And the only rule, if you want to call it a rule, then, is once you put that answer down, to have a purpose bigger than yourself, you ask yourself a why question based on that answer. So why is it that you want to have a purpose bigger than yourself?
Have something to get up for in the morning. Have something that drives you every morning.
Great, love that. and you don't need to answer this now, but you get the point.
Yeah.
Then you would ask yourself, why is it that I have to have a greater purpose than to get up out of bed every morning? So what will happen is if we went through this and we got into 7 or 8 layers, everybody gets stuck. You'll eventually get stuck, right? You'll come up with an answer, you just go, okay, that's it. But that's not it. You have to keep pushing and keep mining, as I call it. You have to go at least 10 layers deep. So in other words, at least 10 questions. And only why questions. No critical thinking at all. And when you keep mining, when you go past the 10th layer, that's when the real work begins. So sometimes I'll work with people and it could take 37 layers. Or it could take 12 layers, but it's different for every person. But ultimately, you keep going until you have what I call a revelation. So revelation is basically something you've never thought about before. And everyone will have a revelation. Like everyone, if you mind hard enough. And that is your actual SW. That's your subconscious way. So for me, I did it recently. And it's to shut down all 32 raw sewage pipes pumping shite all around Ireland into the seas. And at a governmental level and an industrial level, everybody's told me it's impossible. So then I know it's definitely my mission. That's definitely my purpose. That's my bouncing up a bed. So yeah, I'm an entertainer. Yeah, I'm working one-to-one with people, but actually my subconscious way is far different than what people realise, right? But I'm too busy now to do it. So I've given myself a 5-year timeline to wrap up my keynote work, to wrap up my one-to-one work, to wrap up being on stage. And when I'm 55, I need to be financially independent enough to go full-time into that. That is my SW. And then the MA is massive action. You have to take massive action every day. You can't sit there and dream about a Lamborghini landing outside the axis and somebody giving you the keys. It's just not going to work. You got to take massive action. So outwork everyone else. So when I was your age, or similar to your age, I remember a quote by Will Smith. And this was all the way back when he was just, at the time, a rapper. He wasn't even really acting. And somebody said, how is it that you're one of the top rappers in the world? Like, how is this even possible? He just went, I'll never forget this now. And this is a good one for you guys to know. When all the other rappers are in bed, I'm up practicing my rapping. Right? That really resonated with me. So I realised way back then, if I want to become at least the top magician in Ireland, if not one of the top in the world, I was going to outwork everyone. So right then, I just started putting in 18-hour work days straight away, 18 hours a day, every day. And look, I did really well. I ended up headlining Las Vegas, I headlining Planet Hollywood. I won Magician of the Year over there. I'm only saying these things because, I'm not saying it to brag. I'm saying it as an example to you guys. Yeah. Like, you put in 18 hours a day, and you have your SW, and then you add in your times, as I call it, your SATT, which is your subconscious attitude, like hacking your subconscious mind, visualizing, like really going after what you want and visualizing and mapping it out in your head, then equals GS, guaranteed success. So to loop back to your question, like, I don't believe in the law of attraction. I believe in the formula. And anyone I've shared the formula with who follows the formula, it's a simple formula. They've all got the success that they want, all of them. Because they know the formula can't not work. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, that's my own kind
That's what me and Glenn always say about the law of attraction. You can manifest all you want. Say if you're manifesting to win the lotto, you're not going to win it unless you go out and buy a ticket.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the way
it
is. And even at that, you might not win a ticket. Take massive action. You buy 1 million lottery tickets, you might win the lottery.
I bet I'm bound to win then, yeah.
Like something Alex Hormozy always says is that, like, a lot of people say 2 things in life you can't avoid is taxes and debt.
Well, yeah.
He says it's debt and hard work. Because when you think of it, everything requires action. Getting up out of the morning requires moving your legs. Like, you can't sit there visualising and not.
But what you want, but what you want to do is kind of like what you said. You want to be bouncing out of bed rather than dragging yourself out of bed, and that's the difference. Like most people, or a lot of people at least, they're dragging themselves out of bed because, like, it's sad. Like, a lot of people out there, like, they don't really like what they're doing, right? They just fell into a job and they kind of went into the 9 to 5. And I understand that that's just life, right? But it doesn't have to be like that. That's the thing. Like, I was in the 9 to 5 and I lived in a crappy little flat in Northumberland Road, which wasn't even the size of the room we're in now. And the kitchen was there and it was crappy. Like, it was cold and it was wet and it was damp. And I was, at that stage, I was 23. Like, I wasn't young. You know what I mean? But I was hungry. And for me, I knew like the workload is what it needed, and you know, I kind of had in my head what I needed to do. But like, I was a 9 to 5 and I was unhappy in the job, but I took the chance. So you have to find what you really love in life, and it's never too late. Like, even listening to this, if there's a parent listening to this or somebody in their 50s, it's never too late. Like, if you're able to walk, you owe it to yourself to be bouncing out of bed every morning, but that requires work mentally on yourself, you know.
Sure, Colonel Saunders only found a KFC when he was 65.
Yeah, there you go.
So I was going to say, sorry for coming across it, is what's your opinion on like burnout? Do you think that's a mental thing, or is that something that actually happens to people?
Well, this now really interests me, but we're getting into kind of what I call teleology. So teleology is the study of values. So that's a whole other thing, right? So what happens is you want to live by your highest values, right? So your highest values, first of all, you have to have them defined. Like I do this in a corporate setting all the time, lads, where people pay me well to go into these corporate worlds, right? And they've got their corporate values. So the corporate values be the values of the company, right? So some companies, it could be, I don't know, like authenticity, trust, humility, or whatever they are, right? And they have them listed. And generally speaking, at a corporate level, there's like 6 or 7 of them, right? When I go into a company and I'm standing up and I'm talking about values, I grab a microphone, I run into the audience. I don't know who these people are that I go up to, right? So it could be anybody. But it could be the CEO of the company. I'll go, oh, what's your name? John, give me the values of your company. You wouldn't believe the amount of companies I've done that to, where I might go to 6 people and they do not know the company values. They can't even list them. So if they can't list them, they can't live by them, right? So to loop back to it, the first thing I would say is you've got to define your values, right? So I don't know if you have your values defined. Like, could you list them off the top of your head now? I'm not challenging. I'm just asking. Have you got it done? Because you should do it, right? So I do. And they change kind of over time. So I'm always conscious of looping back to it once every 3 months. So last year was a real busy year for me, but it was a weird year, right? I can smile about it now, but it was a painful year last year. Like it started with my dad dying and it ended with my dog dying and a whole lot of crap in between, right? So there was certain values that I missed last year. So I've realigned this year. So this year, like my top value is actually adventure. I want a lot more adventure this year because I didn't have any last year, right? My second value is creativity. And I could list the rest of them straight away off the top of my head. But my point is, other people out there, well, they might value trust at the top, or they might value, I don't know, it could be wealth, it could be anything, right? But ultimately you have to have them defined, because the reason burnout happens is people don't live by their highest values. So if you know what your highest values are and you align your actions with your highest values, even if you're working hard, you're unlikely to burn out. The reason people burn out is they're doing things they don't like doing because they're not aligned with their values. So your highest values cause what's called eustress. So not all stress is bad for us. So, there is too much cortisol levels. Cortisol is stress hormone. There's too much cortisol levels in general in the world. But you need a certain amount of cortisol to motivate you to go up out of bed and stuff. So eustress is good for us. And if you live by your highest values, you're intrinsically motivated. I mean, you don't need to be told anything. Your boss doesn't need to tell you to do something because you're motivated from within. So you're less likely to burn out by doing that. You're more likely to be burned out if you're living down here by your lowest values and you're certainly not aligning yourself to your highest values. Then that's when burnout can happen. But I do think like there's a lot of people close to burnout right now. And it isn't because they're overworked, it's because they're overstressed. The reason they're overstressed is they're in jobs that they don't like, with bosses that they don't like. Sometimes that's unavoidable. I get that, right? But you still have to then put more work into yourself so that when you're in that workplace. I was only talking to somebody actually randomly about this today. He's in a guy he's in a workplace that's really, like, I suppose just detrimental for his mindset right now, right? It's like, it's just not a good culture. The environment's not good. But he said something to himself. He said, I have a choice. I can go in red-faced and ready to bite everyone's head off and get angry, or he said I can just go in with a different mindset and just don't allow anybody to project onto me. That's what he said to me. And again, that is a choice. Like, have you heard of Edith Eger?
No. All
right, lads, because you're in this, look and study at Edith Eger. One of the best books I ever read it's called The Choice by Edith Eger. And I believe, certainly up to most recently, I think she's still alive, right? She's up on Instagram, which is bonkers because she's like probably in her early 90s now, I'm going to guess. She's a Holocaust survivor, right? But she even says, no matter what's happening, you have a choice on how you program your mind. So she takes her experience from being a Holocaust survivor. She talks about that. And one of my favorite quotes from her book was, escape the concentration camp of your own mind. That's powerful.
Yeah.
So like, even if you have tragedy happen to you, we all have tragedy. We all have stuff that happens to us, right? Like, I was in a car accident where my leg was mangled and I was nearly killed by a drunk driver. And then a year later, like, my grandfather was murdered in a botched burglary. And then a year later, our daughter was born and she had intermittent exotropia and a paralysed arm and like all kinds of things. So we all have things happen to us. So we can all have the victim mentality and go, why me, why me? Yeah. But one quote can change your life. Like, that one quote makes me think, well, my life will never be as bad as somebody who was in a Nazi concentration camp. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it is like that ability, I suppose, to reframe in every scenario, you know.
I texted Glenn a quote today. It was, change the way you look at the world and watch how your life changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took that down and everything.
I was talking
Yeah.
to even my ma today.
Yeah.
She was complaining about the weather. She's a positive girl, but she's just getting down, and she was like, "Oh, the rain. It's so dull. It feels like it's winter for ages." I said, "Like that's just your mindset. Like if you're moaning about the dull, like it's not going to get any better." But
I got wet 4 times today, right?
Yeah,
I only
yeah.
got soaked, right? I didn't have an umbrella with, zipping around town. And you saw I was outside the 3 Arena after a tech check, and it was lashing rain, right? My car was, I don't know, a good bit away. But here's the thing, I just started laughing. Because I was laughing. Like, I found myself now in my head go, oh, Jesus, I'm getting wet and I'm getting cold, right? Because that's natural. But then I just immediately did a reframe. In my head, I reframe a lot. So a reframe is basically where you're in the scenario and you just reframe your head and go, fuck, isn't it great to be in Ireland, free, and the weather is crap, but like, I'm blessed to have sound checked in the 3 Arena, and I'm going to be there in 2 weeks, and it's brilliant. I'll be in Orlando on Saturday, so I won't have this weather, so that's deadly. And then I just walk around and just talk to yourself, and I'm fascinated though how you guys ended up getting into this kind of stuff.
Into the mindset.
Yeah.
I think it's because we found our why, I think, and we found our purpose, our passion. We found the thing that gets us out of bed in the morning. And then when we first started, we got a lot of criticism, we got a lot of hate, we got a lot of people laughing at us, we got every reason in the world why we shouldn't go and do it. Then we started really, me and Glenn, I'd call it this obsession thing. We have like an obsessive sort of mindset. When we find something, we're all in. It's not, we'll do that tomorrow. We're doing it now, like, and then we started studying a lot of people in this field, or who made it successful, and who found their why and made it happen and brought it to reality. So we just started just realising, like, it's 99% mindset. If you talk to anybody who's doing any sort of things well in their life, it's all down to their mindset. It's down to how they believe in themselves. And I say it a few times, I think your mind is a weapon. Like, it can it can really, really direct how your life goes.
Like,
it's all about the mind.
Some I always say, like, I'll never forget, I heard Michael Jackson saying it in a video. It was study the greats and become greater. And that's something I live by. Like, I study everybody. Like, I could go home tonight and I'll just look up videos on my phone, YouTube, of like Tupac talking about success and his mindset. Next day it could be Joe Dispenza. Like, I just pick a new person every day and I just study them.
You were talking about yourself when you were our age, and you heard a Will Smith quote, and you started working 18 hours a day. That's not easy, and that's not what other people would call normal. Why were you like that as a kid? What was your why? What got you out of bed?
So look, I was 5 when I got a magic set, right? And I was just fascinated by magic. I was fascinated by the reactions that you had, even at 5, right? So people were pretending to be fooled at that stage, because I was a 5-year-old just messing around with a set, right? But then actually when I was 14, I really started to fool people. I was like, jeez, this is deadly. And immediately then my why was very simple why, but I remember it was just I realised I was transforming people into a moment where they could forget about their everyday problems. That was it, right? So that moment of wonder, nothing mattered. Their sick kid didn't matter. Their crappy job didn't matter. Their problems didn't matter. It's just that childlike sense of wonder that I was giving people. And that never gets old. Like, even here, I'm 49, I'll be 50 this year. It just doesn't get old. And then, of course, my whys change over time, because you end up, like, as time went on, I had kids, and your why changes then and stuff. But, like, when I was 23, I was a cosmetic scientist, so I used to invent makeup for a living, right? That's what I ended up doing, because my parents were great. They were very supportive, but with me, they were like, this is great, this magic stuff is brilliant, Keith, but you're going to college. That was back in the day. I mean, we're in a different world now where you don't have to go to college if you don't want it, and you can still be mega successful. But back then, it was the done thing, and it was like, you're going to college, and you did kind of have to have a qualification to get a decent job, you know what I mean? So I went to college, but the whole time in the back of my head, I knew what I was going to be doing. Like, you know what I mean? There was no doubt. Like, doubt doesn't help you, right? My dad used to always say, panic achieves nothing. I always say, doubt achieves nothing. Like, we all have doubts, right? So that, like, it's natural to have doubts, right? But I always push that doubt off into the distance, and then I just work hard. So when I was 23 anyway, I just decided, you know what, if I'm going to go for this, I'll go for it now. And my why then, it was a strange one. It was still that kind of moment of wonder, but it was also, I loved magic so much. I was doing a lot of magic back then. I don't do so much magic now. It's more the brain stuff. But I wanted to headline in Vegas. That was a large part of my why. And then in 2008, I headlined in Vegas. Like, that was a major achievement. Like, there's nobody else in Ireland that's ever, in my genre, headlined in Vegas. And it was a proper headline. Like, the key cards were all branded with Keith Barry key cards. And, like, the whole wraparound of Planet Hollywood was all me. It was mental, like, do you know what I mean? It was brilliant experience, you know.
Was that visualization, or was that your formula without you realising?
Yeah, it was the formula. I didn't have the formula mapped out then. But when I look back on it, post-respectively, I was living the formula. Do you know what I mean? Like, I knew my SW. I was definitely taking massive action. Like I went to, you know, when I was 23, shortly after that, I started traveling over back to the States and trying to break the States, as you say it. But, like, man, it was hard. Like, I was going over there and I was like, I didn't know anybody. And the problem with LA is it'll chew you up and spit you out unless you spend the time. So I've seen a lot of artists and a lot of magicians and mentalists and hypnotists and comedians try to break LA, but they don't put the graft in at the time. So I was there for years, but I was infiltrating nightclubs and getting in front of the right people and doing magic all the time. And then ultimately, all the celebrities in Hollywood knew me, like literally all of them. And there's that Irish magician, and then all of a sudden I had my own TV show. But it came after like 3 years of hard graft. Do you know what I mean?
Takes years and then it all happens at once.
Yeah. How important do you think networking is for success?
Oh, big time, yeah. Like, even now, I'll give you an exact example of this. Look, I'm an amazing networker, right? But yeah, you can't do it alone, like. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you guys want to grow out of what you're doing now, which I know you do, like, it's all about networking. So, like, you know, you mentioned, we won't say for what, but you mentioned you're going to the UK soon. You got a couple of meetings over there. Like, spin out of those meetings and get more meetings and ask them to introduce you to other people, especially your age. So for me, I was at, this is a random one for you, but I'll just give you my example of what I'm teaching my own kids. So my daughter is 17, right, and she's very confident, but in certain scenarios you sometimes lose your confidence a bit. So we were at the Ozzy Osbourne, his last concert, which was called Back to the Beginning. It was over in Birmingham, right, and we were over at that, and amazing concert, and I was in like the owner's box in Birmingham, right? So like, it was just unbelievable to be in the owner's box of you know, where we were. And then ultimately Sharon Osbourne walked into the room, right? And there's like 120 people in this owner's box. And I said to my daughter, I said, come on, we'll go over and say hello to Sharon. So this is about networking, right? And she goes, we can't do that. And I said, what do you mean we can't do that? And she goes, but she doesn't know us. And I said, she doesn't know you, but Sharon Osbourne knows me. And I wasn't lying, that's the funny thing. And she goes, what? I said, watch this. And we walked over, and Sharon was surrounded by people. And then she saw me, she made eye contact with me, and she literally went, Keith! And then we walked over, and I was like, geez, Sharon's been a couple of years. So I knew her from being in LA years before. And I'd been on her TV show. She had a talk show for a couple of years. I'd been on her talk show stuff, and I knew her. But actually, the reason I got on Sharon Osbourne's TV show in America, and the reason Sharon Osbourne knew me at back at the beginning, Ozzy Osbourne's concert, was because when I was networking in LA for years, I remember coming across Kelly Osbourne a couple of times, and I performed for Kelly. Kelly told her mother about the Irish magician. Then her producer, Sharon Osbourne's producer at that time, rang me and said, do you want to be on our TV show? I went, deadly. And then I went on the TV show, and then I met Sharon a couple of times after that as well. So all of a sudden, Sharon Osbourne knows me. That's the power of networking. But then I was teaching that to my daughter. I was like, now Sharon Osbourne knows you. Even though you might think, she would never remember me. Like, the whole thing is about making an impact. Yeah. And what I would say to people is, you don't need to be a magician. You don't need to be a mentalist. You don't even need to, you know, have to be the most charismatic person ever. But you have to make an impact. So something that you say, you need to make sure that whoever you meet, who you're trying to impact, that you make an impact on them. So it could be just a line that you say, it could be a quote that you say, it could be something about your business, it could be as simple as the two of you saying confidently to me, we're going to be the #1 podcast in the world. I don't meet too many people who say that to me, so I've no reason to doubt you. Do you know what I
Me
mean?
and Glenn always say stuff like that. Like, we're big into networking. This is the whole reason we do it.
Yeah.
Like,
I wouldn't be here if you weren't good networkers.
Exactly. Well,
I don't even know how this happened, by the way. Like, sometimes people get me on a good day and I just go, yes, these random things, right? So I don't know if we connected through Instagram, because I'm so busy. I'm just like looking at all these.
Yeah, it was Instagram, and you sent me on the email, and I was
there you go. So
sent it off straight
Instagram,
away.
and I was just like, oh, these lads look cool lads. They look like doing something interesting. And I just said, gave you the email address to my assistant. I said, here, just email her to get it sorted. And I know it takes a bit of going back and forth.
Yeah.
And then even today when I was on the way out here, I was like, how did this happen? I said, when we go to Ballymun, she's like, I don't know, you organise it. That's what she said to me.
Yeah.
But here, that's the power of networking.
Like one of our dream guests when we first started, we had on the podcast, and then through him,
who was that?
It was McGregor.
Oh yeah.
And through him, he introduced us to 50 Cent then.
Wow.
So we got 50 Cent through that, but it was just because we weren't afraid to then use our network. Like me and Glenn say, we've necks like jockeys.
Yeah.
Like, it's not always the talented or most hardworking people who make it. It's the people who have the audacity to ask for more. And that's why I think it's very important to like stick your neck out there, and because you never know what might come. You don't know if a door's locked until you bang on it. Like, do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and you got to keep going, and you're going to get a lot of those doors closed in front of you.
When you said when you were 23, you decided, right, now I'm going to chase it. What did that mean? Did that mean going back and forth to America? Did that mean quitting your job? Did that mean putting everything on the line?
I handed in my notice into my job when I was 23, and I lived in that crappy flat that I was talking about, and then I went out to LA.
Yeah.
I started to get into debt because, like, I wasn't working out there. I was just trying to make it out there, right? And like at that time I didn't have a visa, so I couldn't work out there anyway, even if I wanted to. And so I was just out there hustling, and then got my first TV show, and then, but again, I was good at networking, and I was like, I want a headline in Vegas. Then I was like, well, how do I do that? So I always say, how do I do that? Like, what's the best roadmap to there? And then for me, it was like, okay, you got to get with a live show producer in Vegas. So then I started to infiltrate that network. So yeah, it's all networking. And then I was flying over and back because I had to fly back here to earn a crust. So I was still performing here. I'd come back, and at that time I was doing a lot of like performances at like weddings and parties and corporate parties and all that kind of stuff. And then I'd take that money, go out and spend it trying to break it in the States. But then look, I did a lot of television in the States that people here don't even know about. Like I did shows on CBS, and I was actually an actor for a minute on CSI Miami, like in one episode. But they made a whole episode around me. I was a murder suspect. You can probably find it online. Like I haven't seen that episode in years. And then I had my CBS show, shows on Discovery Channel, shows on MTV, and most of those weren't even aired here. So even people who would be familiar with my TV work, like my TV work started in Ireland in 2003, right? So that's 23 years ago, right? But even people who would be familiar with that work, they don't know half the stuff that I've done abroad because it was never aired here. Do you know what I mean? So I actually got quite well known in the States for a couple of years, and then even though I still work there now, I don't do any more television there now because I don't need to do television anymore. That's the truth about it, like,
Something you were saying about networking, like something I've really like copped onto is like persistence in networking and like how many contact points you need. And if somebody actually taught us that, like a while ago, I think it would have been last year or so, I tried to contact you and I sent you a few DMs and it wasn't working out, and I was kind of down with myself. But now, where I sit now, it's like, never take things personal. Like I'd say to people, like, networking, they just mightn't have seen it or whatever. I think everything happens when it happens.
Sure, if I show you my inbox now, you'd laugh. Like, I've hundreds of stuff. Like, you can't keep up. And the weird thing is, even with Instagram, some of those messages fall into different folders. But I don't just have Instagram. I've got Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. So I've got those four. And here's the thing, I don't have a big team. It is me doing it all. And then I'm gigging and I'm working. So it is very hard to keep up. But the mad thing is, like, I'd rather do it myself than have a big team. But some stuff falls between the lines. Like, I got a really interesting inbox yesterday, and I managed to see it because it was a blue tick. And it was a guy I've been following, and he's got, like, I won't name who it is in case it doesn't happen, but he's got like 1.8 million followers, and he asked me to go on his podcast. I was like, deadly, yes, straight away to that. And he's UK based, so that will open up a door for me into the UK. Do you know what I mean? But it's back to what you're saying. I'll tell you how there's friends of mine, right, and they're like, one or two of them that, you know, at this moment in time, kind of my age, late 40s, early 50s, and like they're out of work at the moment. And I said, okay, did you chase that lead? And they go, yeah, I emailed them twice. And then they feel bad about emailing them a third time. And I said, has he told you to stop emailing you?
Yeah.
Email them. And they're like, no. I said, he might not have seen it, lads. No, he definitely has seen it. I was like, no. The only reason to stop is if someone tells you to stop. If someone tells you to stop, you have to be polite enough to stop.
Yeah.
So if somebody goes, no thanks, all right, then you just go, okay, he's not interested at this moment of time. Now you could loop back in 6 months or a year or something, right? But if somebody says no or no thanks or stop, then you stop. But until they say stop, I will go bananas. Like, I've been on Ellen DeGeneres. She's finished now, but I was on it 8 times. 8 times.
Mental.
So I was on it 7 times in person in LA. But then here's the crazy thing. In COVID, lockdown was here, I wanted to get back on virtually because I realised that she was doing stuff on Zoom. And I rang my agent, Bill Gersh in America. I said, Bill, I want to get back on Ellen DeGeneres. And he said, no, she's not having anybody on unless you're a AAA lister. So you have to be like Matthew McConaughey level or Woody Harrelson level to get on it. And I said, well, why? And he's like, well, because they're all unemployed now. So they've loads of time. They're not working on their movies and stuff. So she's made a rule. It's only AAA listers. So he said, you're not getting on. I went, oh, okay. And I hadn't been on in a couple of years. So I didn't know anyone in the Ellen organisation because he'd always got me on. So I didn't know any of the researchers or producer directors. So I just went to Google. Researchers, Ellen DeGeneres Show. Producers, Ellen DeGeneres Show. I went to LinkedIn as well. Are you guys on LinkedIn?
No.
Listen, lads. Get on LinkedIn. This is my top tip for you today. Yeah. Even at your age. Just set it up. Back of the class podcast. And Ben and Glenn, or put your own personal profiles up there and just start networking. You want to network? Even at your age? LinkedIn is where it's at. You'll stand out because of your age on LinkedIn in a positive way. People will be like, who are these 2 kids on LinkedIn?
Yeah,
right? So go on LinkedIn as fast as you can, right? I would honestly say to you, like, there's nobody else or very few people in the entertainment world, in my world, up on LinkedIn. So that's where I am at. That's where I spend most of my time, is networking up there. You know, so get on LinkedIn. But Ellen DeGeneres. Yeah, the first day I went to the Formula. SW, I knew I wanted to get on, massive action. First day I made something like 16 phone calls and I sent out 30 emails or something to the Ellen organisation and I got no response. Anyway, cut to the chase. It took something like 126 points of action to get a response. And then in the middle of COVID, I was on Ellen DeGeneres from a cabin in my back garden virtually, and then I got a load of work out there from the back of doing it. You know, and then I rang Bill Gersh, my agent, and I was like, listen, Bill, I'm getting these live gigs. You're not getting a cut of it because you didn't get me on Ellen. And he was cool with it, like, you know.
Would you call yourself a mentalist and a magician?
Yeah, so I am a mentalist and a magician, but the umbrella term that people know me as now is a brain hacker, simply because that's what I do. I hack brains for a living. But I'm not I don't shy away from my background as a magician.
Yeah.
So I'm a magician, a mentalist, a hypnotist. I use a lot of hypnosis. So it's very hard to put a label on me. So that's why brain hacker is the easy term, you know. What would
you say is the difference between a mentalist and even a brain hacker, or a mentalist and a magician?
Well, a mentalist and a brain hacker are very similar. Like a magician is like sleight of hand using cards, or like I have a deck of cards, so I'll show you the difference, right? So here's the difference. So I've got a deck of cards here, and I don't normally carry the deck of cards, it's the gas thing. But just the gas, I used to carry decks of cards all the time, but I don't do much magic. So that big black X is there for a reason, right? I'm going to tell you something. There's one card reversed in this deck. There's only one card reversed, but I'm going to put it in your head, okay? I'm telling you I'm going to put it in your head. Your job is to resist me. Don't allow me to put it in your head. So look at me. There's the ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, jack, queen, king. Ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, jack, queen, king. And then there's the hearts, the clubs, the spades, and the diamonds. Name it out loud.
10.
Hearts, clubs, spades, or diamonds.
Diamonds.
Then when we were doing that, I was making some actions and some gestures to try to influence you, right? So you said the 10 of diamonds. So later on, when people are watching this online, or maybe you might think, well, what would have happened had I changed my mind? And you'll also wonder, you know, does everybody pick the 10 of diamonds? They don't, but you might think that. So you can change your mind if you want to. Now, most people won't give you that opportunity, but I'm giving you that opportunity to change your mind. So do you want to change your mind, or are you going to stick with the 10 of diamonds? Your choice now.
Stick with the 10 of diamonds.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, that big black X is here. It's important, right? I'll go through these slowly so you know that I can't possibly cheat. Now, all the cards, I'm going to do it slowly so you know I can't cheat, right? You see, all the cards, they're all going the same way. Like, every single card is going the exact same way. Except one. There's only one reverse. There's one card reverse. There's only one, right? There's no other card reverse. Now, I want you to know I didn't just flick that around. That's why I put a big black X through the cards.
How did you do? Is there something in there, like a clue you dropped or a hand gesture to mentally make him want to go and pick that card?
Well, that's the mystery that you're trying to figure out. So that's like a mixture between magic and mentalism, right? So there's a bit of both in there. Right. So this is brain hacking, what I'm about to show you. So look, I've got a card here with what I call a thought bubble on it, right? So that's a thought bubble. So I want you to stare at that, Ben, and in your head, I want you to go back in time. So not now, go back in time, back in your head, and in your mind, go back to a classroom, like maybe when you're 5 or 6 or something like that. And in your head, I want you to imagine somebody in that classroom that he doesn't know. And you've got somebody in mind, yes? Yeah, don't say that loud. I do, yeah. Look at me. I know you haven't told me this, you haven't told him this. Uh-huh. Okay, it just exists as a thought inside your mind. And imagine whose class it is that you're in. Don't say it, just think it. So imagine that this little person here, imagine that little person is the teacher. And imagine that this thought bubble here, that she is saying, it's a she you're thinking of, is it? Yeah, it's a female teacher. I knew that by the way you're talking, or the way you're reacting there. So imagine that she's saying the name of this person. So imagine she's saying the name. Okay, so imagine the teacher and imagine she's saying the name of this person. Now look at me, just focus on the name of the teacher. And yeah, your left leg is moving a lot and you're twiddling your thumbs. So that tends to tell me that I'm going to say that there's a Y in her name. Is there a Y in her name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, focus on the position of the Y in the name, like where it exists in the spelling of her name. Now, different people think in different ways. So when I say to people focus on the position of the Y, most people will count in their head and they'll go, oh, it's in the second or third. But you didn't do that. So in your head, it was like an echo coming from your mind to mine. You just said in your mind, it's in the last position. Did you say that in your head? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And think of the spelling of her name. Don't say it, just think of it. And forget the Y for a moment. Just focus on the other letters and think of any one of the other letters.
Yeah.
Good, that's a C. So it was a C Bob, yes?
How did you... Yeah, it was.
Focus on her name. Don't say it, just think it. Okay, I'm going to write something down. Okay. And now go back to the person that you're thinking of, the one of many that's in the class. And say your name out loud. Your own name.
Ben.
And say your name in your head though. Good. Now imagine that you're saying this person's name, this other friend of yours. Imagine you're saying it in your head, not out loud. Don't say it out loud. Interesting. I got it bang on there. That was Brandon you just said. It was Brandon, and I'll show you. It was Mrs. Clancy you were thinking of.
How did... Yeah, it was, yeah.
There you go. So that's the difference between brain hacking.
How did you go about... I'm mind blown.
Yeah, it was inside your head, rambling around.
How did you do that?
It was crawling inside your head. I'll show you more.
There's thousands of names that you could have picked there.
Yeah.
I'm baffled. That is crazy. And even the she thing, you could have said he at the start.
Yeah.
But how I would say how he went about doing that, or certain tells, or
so it's a mixture of different things, right? So I do what's called, you should look into this as well, neuro-linguistic programming. Have you heard of that? Have you heard of it?
No.
So NLP. So look into NLP. So NLP is how we communicate non-verbally, right? So we are all leaking information. Every single person in the world is shielding, first of all. So you know the way you're talking to somebody, they're going, yeah, but in your head you know, they're just thinking no, right? But there's a whole art to that. So non-verbal communication signals. So I'm looking for what's called an asymmetrical shoulder shrug. So I'm looking for one shoulder moving out of sync with the other. I'm looking down at your fingers, even though it doesn't look down your fingers. I can see his fingers moving over here as I'm talking to you, but I'm also looking at the way your legs are positioned. I'm looking at everything, like everything, in minute detail. I can actually see the carotid artery in your neck right there, so I can tell your pulse rate. So I can tell when your pulse rate's increasing, he's taking a drink. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm watching everything. But I can do that with a full room. So reading a room is really important in business and in life in general. And most people don't know how to read a room, whereas I do. And I know immediately, like if I'm in a room with like 40 people who I've never met before, within 2 minutes, I'll know the key decision maker is in that room, and then I'll position myself over closer and closer to that person over the course of a couple of minutes. So then I end up networking with that person, because I don't want to network with the people who aren't the decision makers. Like I'm fine with networking with everybody, but if I'm trying to get a deal or something, I need to get to that person, even if I don't know who they are. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm looking at, and then so there's NLP involved. There's not in what I just did there, but sometimes I use hypnosis, but sometimes I use what's called talking trance. So I'm talking to you and putting you into trance as I'm talking to you, but without you saying anything, without me letting you know that I'm doing that, you know.
Do you think you can come out of hypnosis? Because I've heard, like, we met Mike Tyson a couple of weeks ago, and
I've met Mike a bunch of times, by the way.
A lot of people say since Customato, was it like he hypnotised him into being a warrior?
Yeah.
Mike was saying he can never turn that off. He can just kind of like sustain it. Or whatever.
Yeah. So look, nobody's ever gone into trance, meaning gone into a hypnotic sleep and never come out of it, right? If you don't come out of it, it means you're basically dead, right? So, but under hypnosis, you can create permanent mental programs, which is what Mike is talking about, right? So Mike was young, he was malleable, and ultimately, like, that guy was getting inside his head, and he made Mike Tyson into what he is now. And Mike, if he wanted to, could change that, because right now what's going on is what's the man's name again?
Customato.
Yeah, Customato. So ultimately, he created that new neural pathway inside Mike, which is permanent, unless somebody like me comes along to Mike and unpacks that and creates a different neural pathway that can override it. So that's possible. And I've met Mike a bunch of times. I was actually on the Conan O'Brien show with Mike Tyson, and I performed on him, and I hypnotised him on the Conan O'Brien show. And I'm only sad that I don't have that footage, because it was a good long time ago now, and it was wild. Like, hypnotised Mike Tyson. I did this whole hypnosis thing on him, and then I met him in the Roosevelt Hotel in LA one time, and then another time I met him in Vegas. Right around the time I was headlining there, and I performed for him in a nightclub. And I remember he took his open hand and he slapped me on the chest because I did something that fooled him badly. But I remember being really hurt by him, like, just by him slapping me in the chest. And he was drunk and I was drunk, so it was wild. But yeah, Mike is interesting for sure, you know.
What's one thing you've noticed being around high level achievers? Like, is there one trait that you notice in all of them that they all carry?
I suppose there's two things. Like, we're all far more similar than we are different. So those high performers, they still have the same anxieties, they still have the same doubts as everybody else. They still have the monkey brain, but the one thing that they all have in common is they're able to override it. They're able to not allow that monkey brain to take them over. Like, you know the way sometimes your monkey brain, like, am I really that good? Am I really going places? You know, am I really able to achieve this? You know, you're questioning yourself all the time. But all those high achievers, they're able to override that. And that's the kind of through line with those overachievers. And then the other thing is, with overachievers, they're willing to learn consistently. A lot of people are just lazy with their mindset. Like, they'd rather be sitting there watching Netflix. Don't get me wrong, I watch Netflix. Do you know what I mean? I watch Stranger Things, I enjoy it. But it's not the be all and end all. Like, you saw, like, the fact that you lads were talking to me about, like, Les Brown and Brian Tracy, like, you want to see my library. Like, my library's gigantic. And my wife just gives out to me, because I still order like 30 books at a time. And I've got all of them. Like, I've got Les Brown, Brian Tracy,
Robert Greene.
Who else? Yeah, Robert Greene. I'm not crazy on Robert Greene's books, but that's just, like, his concepts are still very good.
The only one I read was the one he has with 50 Cent, the 50th Law, all about perception and how you perceive yourself and overcoming fears in your head. That had an impact on my life as well, because I read that at the time where I was terrified to put myself out there, and terrified about the podcast, and terrified about things that was going on in my life outside of the podcast. And that sort of just gave me, like, the kick to start, you know what I mean? That gave me, like, the if he's out there doing this and he's out there overcoming this, then what am we talking about?
But that's what I mean, like, one book, one thought, one line, one quote can change your life.
Yeah.
So mine for the good stuff. Find the good stuff, because if you find one thing that works, I'll tell you, it can really be applicable. I remember years ago, somebody just said to me, you know what fear is, Keith? I said, what? False expectations appearing real. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It's brilliant. Like, think about it. Like, we get scared, right? We think, oh jeez, what if I'm judged? And so what? You can't think of other people's opinions. Oh, what if I crash the car? What if the plane crashes? What if I get anxious when I go into the room? What if I don't say my lines right? What if nobody likes me when I'm on stage? What if, oh, I'm scared of that dog or whatever. But actually, not always, but for the 99.9999999% of those times, fear, it's an acronym, so you use FEAR, false expectations appearing real. That's all they are. They're false expectations. You're thinking these things are going to happen, but most likely in all these scenarios, they're never going to happen. And I always remember that, because even now, it's a simple thing. But I remember, not so long ago, I failed on stage, and that made me feel the fear, like. But then I was like, but the audience doesn't care, because they know I'm going to get everything else right. So that's just me being fearful for no reason. It's a false expectation appearing real. So you just override it fast,
I was going to ask you, I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't believe in hypnotism and mind hacking, and even people that's going to doubt what you just got there, which still has my mind blown. I'm trying to even think of questions of, but my mind is elsewhere. But is there ever times you failed, or how would you sort of overcome them people who doubt hypnotism?
Oh, I'd just say come to a live show. Like, I'm doing the 3 Arena, February 7th, come to the live show and get on stage. I say to the skeptics, you're skeptical? Come on stage. Like, the only way to know it's real is to experience it yourself. And I don't mind people being skeptical. Like, I'm a skeptic myself. Like, I'm a critical thinker. I think it's good to be skeptical, but I can do what I can do. So if people are doubting it, come along. Because I love nothing better than skeptics coming to the show. Because with the skeptics, there's nothing better for an audience, actually, to see like somebody sitting there with their arms folded, doesn't believe in it. We have cameras on the stage. We pan into the audience. We zoom in on a skeptic. And I go, what's your name? Bob. Bob, come up here. And there's nothing more beautiful than an audience knowing that Bob is a skeptic. Yeah. And then like within 60 seconds, I got Bob hypnotized on his back on the stage. And he's in deep hypnotic trance. And everybody's like, oh, whoa, what's going on here? And everyone gets scared then, because they know, fuck me, it's real. So like, if you look at my latest Instagram reel, ultimately, like, there's a clip there on my Instagram page where it's 2 people in masks, right? And they're anonymous masks. So basically I'm stripping these people of their identity, and I take control completely of their mind, their body and their soul in that moment in time. But these are 2 people in the audience. It could be your mother, your sister, your brother, your father, your partner, whoever you're there with. And that experiment in the current show is based on MK Ultra, which are real experiments that the US government, the CIA, did back in the 1970s, where they were using LSD coupled with brain hackers and hypnotists like me to hypnotize them to become sleeper agents, meaning ultimately create assassins and then make these people forget that they've ever actually assassinated anybody. They were really doing that. So I have experiments based on that in Unhinged. And I love skeptics come up, and then within a couple of minutes, I've taken full control of them. Because I did a whole TV show on this called Black Ops Hypnosis. You can find it online, it's up there online. And ultimately, I know for real that you can take control of somebody's full psychology within a couple of minutes. Not everyone, you can't take control of everybody, but there's a certain cohort of people that you can take control of,
What separates them people?
Great question. So, it's the opposite of what you think. Very often people think only silly, stupid or weak-minded people can be hypnotised. Silly, stupid or weak-minded people can't focus and they can't listen to my voice. Do you know what I mean? So it's completely opposite of what you think. So what you want is somebody who has a real good ability to imagine. So good person's good at visualization coupled with just above average intelligence. And that's most people, but the people I found that are the most susceptible, back to your question, I'm actually looking for people in really good shape in the audience, meaning fit, because the best people to visualize are people who are in the gym, visualizing themselves, priming their bodies. So I found like athletes, bodybuilders are brilliant. Bodybuilders are very hypnotizable. Right? I love bodybuilders coming up because they look big and beefy, and then the next minute I hypnotize them and I lay them out in their back. So it looks very dramatic. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. But actually, you could take like a bodybuilder would be a good candidate for becoming an assassin. Do you know what I mean?
In terms of your mindset, what do you think separates people who win from people who don't?
I think it's just that ability to have a compelling future, so knowing what you want, coupled with that visualization process. People just don't understand visualization. If you have an imagination you can visualize. And if you visualize your compelling future every single day, that's what separates everyone apart. Elon Musk is visualizing everything every day, let me tell you. Richard Branson has spoken about the power of visualization. Michael Phelps, greatest Olympic athlete of all times, he visualized every single day for 5 years in the run up to the Olympics. He didn't miss his visualization on Christmas Day. He didn't miss it on his birthday. He visualized every day for 5 years. Like, you know, the list goes on. Like Oprah Winfrey, they all talk about visualization. I like, you know, if you want to use me as an example, I consider myself somewhat successful. Visualize. That's the thing. Does it always work? No, because like life, we're going to fail sometimes.
Yeah.
So fail fast and learn and move on. Do you know what I mean? Don't labor on the failure. Learn from it though. So when you fail, don't just ignore it. Learn from why it is that you failed and then move on. So look, I'm privileged that and grateful, like very grateful that after 25, nearly 26 years being at this here, like what age are you guys?
17.
So like you weren't even born when I started. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm very grateful that, you know, my current tour Unhinged, like it's sold out across the country except for the 3 Arena, and there's still some tickets available for the 3 Arena, but ultimately I'm still visualising that selling out. So I know, yes, I know the roadmap to get there, even when all my shows are sold out except the 3 Arena. I'm still visualising a standing out. I'm still visualising like 5,000 people in the building, and that's part of the graft. You know, that's part of, I suppose, just my DNA at this stage, is that power of visualization. And that's what separates everyone apart. But it's the people who commit to the visualization. You can't just visualize once. You've got to visualize every single day.
I was going to say, you said Michael Phelps didn't miss a day of visualization, but he also didn't miss a day of training in them 5 years.
That's it. Yeah, it's but it's like me. Like my immovables are the ice bath. Like I do an ice bath every single day. When I couldn't afford an ice bath, it was a cold shower every single day. Why? Because I know it. See, I've done the science behind it. It basically increases your dopamine levels by 250%. So what that means is dopamine is your feel-good hormone. And if you want to feel great in the morning, have a 2-minute cold shower. You don't need to be like Joe Rogan or Russell Brand where they're challenging each other to do 10 minutes in an ice bath.
Yeah.
I know, let's just say, quite a lot about cold therapy, right? Your optimum amount of time in an ice bath or in a cold shower is 2 minutes. If you want to do 3 to push yourself a bit more for your resilience, your mindset, great. No more than 3 minutes, because it becomes counterproductive. It's actually not good for you to go longer, right? So 2 to 3 minutes, cold therapy. So that means a cold shower. Every is a cold shower, no excuse, right? And you will increase your dopamine levels by 250%. So in other words, your feel-good hormone will increase by 250%, and it won't dive off. Like, you know, caffeine, sometimes you can dive off a cliff with your, you know, a crash. They call it a crash, or with food. But actually, after a cold shower, it'll only slowly come back down, and it'll only come back to baseline. It'll never go underneath your baseline. So a great way to optimize your day is that cold bath or that cold shower, like, you know.
Your mindset seems bulletproof. Like,
no, it's not.
It's one of the best mindsets I've seen. And the question we have here is, was it always like that? Or if it wasn't, how would you build it? Because I know a lot of people who struggle with their mindset, who struggle with a lot of things to do with their mind. How would you tell them to go about building a mindset to even match 50% of yours?
Yeah, like it's not, like it's a good question. Now, I'll say, as I said, I'm turning 50. October 2nd this year, I'll be 50, right? So my mindset was solid, like really solid, all my life. And I've had some tragedies that I've mentioned, and we all have tragedies. So my crap is no different than somebody else listening to this. I do look at it though. Like I talked to my wife about it. Like she's had a pretty plain sailing until now. When I look back at it, like my grandfather, when he was murdered in the botched burglary, a couple of days later, my auntie drowned in the river. So my mum's sister drowned. My dad's dad died in a botched burglary, and then, as I said, our daughter. But like, again, that's just my baggage, and everyone has baggage, right? Even through those moments, though, I was really solid, except until my dad died last year. And then it was just a difficult year for a couple of different reasons after that. So actually last year, I found was the first year that my mind started to spiral a bit, right? It's kind of good that I look back on that now, because like I even lost about 2 stone, and I didn't really need to lose 2 stone, do you know what I mean? And I was like, at that moment in time, I was still doing my habits. I was doing my ice bath, and I was doing sauna, and I was going to gym, but it wasn't working. And I was finding it hard to pull myself up and out. So what worked for me then, when my mind wasn't bulletproof, was literally just talking to my best mate every day. Like, it was the best, because I knew that was the right thing to do. Just offload, and I knew he was in a position to be able to take it at the time. And I kept apologising to him. Listen, I'm sorry, I'm just so down at the moment. He's like, no, don't be sorry, keep talking. And then I slowly pulled myself and sucked myself back up out of that. But I've been very lucky that I do have a solid mindset, a bulletproof mindset. But for people listening, look, it is the simple things. So I know the amount of people say to me, I couldn't do a cold shower, right? Listen, every single person listening to the podcast, tomorrow morning, you could do your hot shower and you could do 5 seconds cold. There's nobody in the world who can't do 5 seconds. Just turn to freezing cold and count to 5. Do you know what I mean? The next day, though, count to 10. The next day, count to 15. And then keep going until you get 120, and then guess what? You'll be at roughly 2 minutes. Everyone can do that, but it's a choice. You're going to do that, you're going to not do that. So that's the first thing. Cold therapy is brilliant for you. But then the second thing, again, is I would say just that self-hypnosis and self-care. It's just like getting back inside the head and visualizing your compelling future. But that loops back to the formula, because you've got to know what your compelling future is. A lot of people don't. Now listen, some people are really happy to do 9 to 5 and get a pension at the end of it. And there's nothing wrong with that. So my, I suppose, mindset isn't for everybody. And I find there's too many people, I think, out there preaching about this kind of stuff. Like, if you're interested and intrigued, I do believe everybody should live the fullest life possible. Yeah. They should get up and get after it. I think too many people are in the victim mentality, poor me, why me? Like, everyone's on the Ozempic. If you're on the Ozempic out there, you know, fair play to you. But like, it's just the easy. Everyone's looking for the pill. Everyone's looking for the injection. And people out there will criticise me for saying that. They'll go, well, you know, isn't it better to have Ozempic? And I've reversed, I think loads of people have said this to me. I reversed my diabetes and my doctor has told me about blood pressure down and everything else. Well, you could have done that by getting in the gym and just stop eating. And then you'll have other experts will come out and go, well, no, it's a hormonal imbalance. A lot of people can't do that. Nonsense. I've looked at all the science out there, because here's the thing. One person's going to tell you to be a carnivore. Another person's going to tell you to be a vegan. And here's the thing. They both have truths. Yeah. But the real truth is, just stop eating processed crap, get in a treadmill and lift some weights. You'll lose the weight. I mean, that is the truth. But people don't want to hear that. They want the injection. But guess what? Now they're finding the side effects of the Ozempic. But people are ignoring that because they want to sell the thing. So now it's like the side effects are, well, there's good chance that you might get, you know, a bone disorder, osteoporosis or whatever, because ultimately it's sucking the nutrients out of the bones, right? So you actually have to, if you're on the Ozempic, for example, lift weights or do some kind of resistance training. But a lot of people don't want to do that either. So I'm like, well, when was it then we would actually just appreciate hard work? So for me, it's all about the work, right? I randomly went on a tangent there on Ozempic. I'm not even against Ozempic, but I'm only using that as an example. Yeah. It's an example of, we're all looking for the easy fix now. There's no easy fix to life. It's the visualization, the hard graft, the hard work, finding habits though for your mindset, right? And like we talk about surrounding yourself by, you know, you're kind of defined by the top 7 people that you surround yourself by. That's what, you know, generally you said, right? There's truth to that. But it's also, you're defined by what you're focusing on. Now, this is important because even people, I've met CEOs, like multi-millionaires, gazillionaires, right? And they're the most depressed people when I get them behind a closed door, talk to them one-to-one. Like, they're genuinely depressed. And then I say to them, give me your phone. And they go, huh? Give us your phone. And I just go through their phone and I go, oh, you got Sky News there, you got CNN there, you got Twitter or X there. I said, this is all negative information. And the most important, I came up with this quote, it's my own quote. What you see can never be unseen. And what you hear can never be unheard subconsciously. So, you know, all that rubbish that we're all watching online and we just flicking past, we're not even thinking, right? We're disassociated from it. But your subconscious mind is still absorbing that and it's in there permanently. So let's say in 3 months' time, you might have an argument with your mother. You talked about your mum when I was in here, right? You might have an argument with your mother. You wouldn't even realise that something from 3 months previous that you looked at on your phone, on Snapchat, or on, could be triggering you that day in that interaction with your mother, because it's in your subconscious mind. So like a good example is, look, I was talking to a bunch of kids one day. I was giving a talk in a school, and one of them randomly asked me afterwards. It was the most weirdest thing ever. They asked me afterwards, oh, Kimmy Keith, did you see last night when Charlie Kirk got shot? And I was like, no, I didn't see that. because I chose not to look at that. And I said, your mind at your age has no idea the impact that that's having. So all these wars that people are looking at, right? When people are looking at, like I see people, influencers bawling, crying and saying, oh my God, isn't it real terrible what's happening in the Ukraine and Palestine? And yes, it is. Yes, it is. But you have to be mindful of your own mindset first. Then you have to be mindful of your family and your friends bubble. And then if you want to do something, see, here's the thing. If you're looking at that content, you have to take an action to offload that content out of your brain. So you have to feel like you're providing or doing something for that. Preaching on social media is not that, though. And that's the difference. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is be very careful and mindful of what you're absorbing subconsciously, because you can't unpack that unless you know how. I know how, but most people don't know how. So again, even people out there who are, trying to make an effort to make an impact on those wars, that's brilliant. It's very, I suppose, admirable. But you have to be doing something else. In other words, set up a charity and put your energies in there, because that'll help you unpack what's going in. But even when it comes to the news, like a good thing that I did myself, I advise people on this all the time. I deleted Sky News off my phone. It's gone. I deleted X completely. Now, I had 80,000 real followers on X, right? And just one day, I'd had enough, and I just deactivated my account, deleted it, gone. So I can't even reactivate it. Like, it's gone. I can't put it back up. Best thing I ever did. I could see a complete shift in my mindset, that I was less cranky with my own kids and so on, because now I'm very mindful of the information that I'm absorbing. So again, all these things are stacking then in your favour towards being successful, being productive, having more positive days than negative days. That doesn't mean I don't have bad days. I do. That doesn't mean I don't get cranky. I do. I hate people talking about this stuff and not talking about the fact that they still have bad days. They still have negative days. They still have down days. That's normal. That's part of life. Life's messy. Do you know what I mean? But if you absorb yourself, if you absorb the right information, or at least come from that mindset, and you limit your news intake and limit the crap that your friends are sending you, and then do like the work that you guys are doing and surround yourself with that information and absorb that information, learn about your mind. Like, there's only one way you're going to go. It might be slower than you like. It might not go as fast as you want to go. But then all of a sudden there'll be a pop moment and you go, geez, how did I get here? Well, you know how you got there, because you put in the work. Do you know what I mean?
What does success mean to you?
Contentment. Not even happiness. Contentment. Being happy with your lot. Like, I never was driven by money. So money is a side effect of what I do, right? Money's important, so I wouldn't be. I'm not the type of person saying money's not important. Look, it helps. Like, it helps with, healthcare. It helps with, if you can afford health insurance thing, right? If it helps with,
Putting a roof over your head.
Yeah, like money's important, right? So I wouldn't underestimate the value of money, but contentment is happiness for me. So just being happy with my lot, and success for me is being able to spend time with the family, right? So here's a good question to ask yourselves, right? Who do you not want to be? See, you don't have to answer that, but it's a good question worth thinking about, even for people listening. Like, who do you not want to be? I know exactly who I don't want to be. 3 words: an absent father. That's it. Because too many people in my world, I know them. I know loads of divorced entertainers. I know loads of entertainers and keynote speakers and people in my world, magicians, mentalists, hypnotists. They get so caught up with the success of it all. Success meaning the next biggest show, or, headlining in Vegas, but it comes with a cost. So before my kids were born, I was happy to have that cost. So I'm with my wife now, I don't know, 32 years or something, right? So a long time. But for the good portion of that time, I was in the States working, and I come home to her and whatever. So it was difficult. It was a strain on our relationship. But the second the kids were born, I realigned, and I went to myself, who don't want to be? I don't want to be an absent father. So I'm very mindful of the amount of time I spend abroad now. Very mindful of the amount of time I work. Do I fail at that sometimes? Oh, yeah. Sometimes I do spend too much time working, and sometimes but it's still in my mind, don't be an absent father. So awareness is key, because if there's an awareness, then I can always loop back to, hang on here now, I'm not taking any work. I'm going to spend time with my kids and being present. they're the things that are success to me. Yes, I got success in my career, but actually true success is for me contentment, because I know too many people who they're never content. It's more money, more success. And like you mentioned somebody else earlier on who got caught up in all that. Like, let's be honest about it, you know, it's a bit sad, but it is what it is, you know.
Do you think you could be brain hacked, or you could be hypnotized?
Yeah, because I program my own mind, and I go to Orlando this weekend. I'll be asleep on the plane faster than everybody because I'll just self-hypnotise myself. And Tony Sadar, you should get Tony Sadar. Now, it would be very hard for you to get him. Oh, that's a challenge for you now. So Tony's like 82 or 83. He's my mentor, but he's still working out of his office in Cabinteely. And he's an amazing character, right? But he can hypnotise me. So he's hypnotised me in the past. You know, so I've gone to him sometimes and said, Tony, I need some help with something. Oh, yeah, don't bother. And he sits me down and he hypnotises me, you know.
We've been told that something has been difficult. A lot of guests have said, that'd be very hard, and then 3 weeks later when we have them on,
Tony's 82 or 83 though, so there's an age problem there. I'm trying to get him here, you know.
Our first guest was Jim Sheridan.
Wow.
Sheridan.
Yeah.
We had a guest on as well that was 105.
101.
101
Charlie O'Leary. He was the kit man for Ireland
in Italia 90.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And who's on your hit list now? Who do you want coming up
right now?
Yeah.
We want to get them guests at Liverpool locked in, because
who's those? Do we know? Are you allowed to say?
We'll put it out there. Yeah, the owners of Montrex were in contact now with them, and we just feel like they really.
We'd love to get Stephen Bartlett on, because lives over in England. Well, I think he lives in LA, but like he's in the same industry we're in.
He's an inspiration to us.
Look up to him. We both study him, so put that out there.
He's amazing. Like, he's amazing what he's done. You know, Diary of a CEO and stuff.
Yeah. Any of them, like Chris Williamson, any of them in that category.
If you were to, you mentioned you work with athletes and you do office talks. Say if me and Glenn paid you, and we told you our goals, how would you go about? Would you be able to tap into our minds so that we could achieve them faster or achieve them?
So like it's different. It's different with athletes and corporations and companies. So with the companies that don't so much do hypnosis, it's more motivational talks, right? Yeah. But when it's one-to-one work, I use hypnosis. Right. So for example, I worked with Rory Best, ex-Ireland rugby captain. So I worked with Rory Best and I ended up doing something like 30 sessions with him. I did a lot of sessions with him. And it was all for different things. So one, I helped him with his sleep, that I helped him with his throwing, the accuracy of his throwing, that I helped him get his body fat percentage down for the World Cup. So there were some of the things that I did for him. And then, some people, I help them fast track their goals. So I get them super activated. So I get them to eliminate any nonsense that's not to do with their goal or their dream that they're trying to achieve. So I eliminate bad habits, for example, with hypnosis. So, you know, if you're spending too much time, for example, on your phone, or if you're spending too much time eating, you know, I appreciate the cupcakes over there, but you just got not to eat too many of them, you know what I mean? And things like that. And then, like, I worked with Johnny Sexton. So I worked with Johnny on his kicking, like most recently, a couple of months ago now, but I worked with Jack Crowley on his kicking. And then the most recent client I have, very often I'm NDA'd, which is non-disclosure agreement. I can't even talk about half the people I've worked with. But right now, I won't say who it is or what genre it's in, right? But let's just say I'm working with a race car driver at the moment, who's quite well known. So that's my latest client at the moment. But with him, it's a very specific, granular thing. So sometimes athletes and celebrities, they'll hire me for something very granular. So what I mean by that is just something really, it might seem really small to the two of you or me. Yeah. But actually it's really important and specific for them to get that 0.1%. And that's what, at that level, they're looking for, is that 0.1%. They're not looking for 1%, they're looking for 0.1%, just to get the edge over the competition, you know?
Do you know what's something that I don't know, this is something that I noticed about other people and just sort of how that mind works. Like, for example, someone I know bought anti-stress electrolytes, and I'm thinking to myself, how, like, anti-stress electrolytes and for example there's like weight loss pills and this and that, and when these people actually take them, though, straight away they take a sip of the drink, oh yeah, feel a lot better now. And I'm thinking to myself, that's nothing to do with the electrolyte.
Yeah.
That's your subconscious mind telling you you're just after drinking an anti-stress electrolyte. This has to work. It's gonna work. You're already done. Yeah, everything's all good. But I think if you didn't drink that and you said to yourself, I'm not stressed anymore, I'm alright, this doesn't hurt, like it's gonna work out for you. It's a bit like I always say to people, like, if you keep imagining my knee is acting up, it's so sore, if you're always talking about it, telling everyone about it, your knee probably will go up after a while, and it probably will start to pain you. But if something does happen and you fall on your knee, you're thinking that's sore but I'll be alright, I'll walk it off. I think, like, that's how powerful your mind is. That actually, what you tell it, it actually believes and brings to reality. Like.
Oh yeah, like a great guest for you to get, because you're into this stuff, is Fergus O'Farrell. So Fergus was paralysed after a really random accident that he had, right? And he visualised himself walking. The doctor told me he'd never walk again, right? And he visualised himself walking, but he visualised at a very, like, again, granular level, right? So he visualised neurons in his brain while he was paralysed. Neurons in his brain going down through his spine, but he visualised this like over the course of an hour. Just one neuron going down through his spine, down through his legs, all the way down into his ankle, into his feet, and just visualising his toe moving. And then he got it to move. And then he called the doctors in. The doctors goes, that's just an involuntary twitch. It's not actually moving. And he goes, no, it is moving. And the doctor's like, nah, it's not moving. And then they said, do it again. He did it again. And ultimately he ended up walking again. And it was just from visualization. Like, that's how powerful it is. But back to your point, everyone's looking for the quick fix, man.
Yeah.
And as the world progresses, it's going to be more and more about the quick fix. Now, the latest thing is collagen. And, we should all be taking collagen supplements and, rubbing our face with the newest cream. Then, the newest electrolyte. Electrolytes are good for you. But guess what electrolytes are? It's a glass of water with a crack of Himalayan salt in it that costs nothing. Like, one thing Himalayan salt do you for a year for electrolytes, just crack it in, right? Now, look, that doesn't mean to say that if I'm going on a plane, I won't take a pack of electrolytes on the plane, because, look, I'm travelling, I want to keep my body hydrated. But, like, an anti-stress electrolyte is not the way to be going, you know what I mean? But that's just the world we're in. We're in a consumerist world,
What you mentioned there, we actually had a guest on a couple of weeks ago, Ryan Curtis. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
No.
He's an MMA fighter.
Okay.
And he was in the middle of a training session. He got slammed on his neck. I'm not sure the details of it, but he was paralysed, basically, fully paralysed.
Wow.
Doctor told him he'd never walk again, he'd never hold his kid again. And that was about a year, 2 years ago that happened to him.
A year and a half ago.
And now he's doing 5Ks. He's running, he's walking, he's holding his kid, he's back in the gym. And that I think that was all down to his mindset. Like he said,
of course it is, yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Well, like in my car accident, I was 5 minutes from amputation. So I've got like 7-inch plate, 13 screws in that ankle. So like I broke my knee and I disintegrated my tibia and fibia, which are the bones going down your leg and into your ankle. And then my foot was dislocated, and all the metatarsals, which are the bones going down to your toes, they were broken. And my foot was up around my shin going the wrong way, pointing completely the wrong way. And I was 5 minutes from amputation. And ultimately, after 3.5 weeks, when they rebuilt me I was up in the north, up in the Royal Vic Hospital, they told me I'd have a limp for the rest of my life. And I was like, nope. And they started laughing at me. I was like, they were like, why? They were saying to me, this is kind of, they were laughing. I said, what are you laughing at? And they're like, look, you have to take this seriously. You're going to have a limp for the rest of your life. And I said, no, I don't have time. They were like, what do you mean? I said, I'm going to ring Vicar Street. I'm going to ring Aiken Promotions, who were my promoters at the time. MCD are my promoters now and have been for many years. But at that time, it was Aiken. I was like, I rang Peter Aiken. I said, book me into Vicar Street. And he booked me in. And I said to the doctors, now, I'm going to walk on that stage with no limp. And they're like, it's not possible. And I said, no, I'm possible, which is like impossible. Have you heard that?
Yeah,
impossible.
yeah.
I was like, and they laughed. They thought that was cheesy or whatever. I was like, yeah, whatever. And here's the gas thing, because you mentioned Liverpool. So at the time, I was like, so this is back to the formula, right? I was like, okay, I'm not going to make this happen alone. So where are the best physios in Europe? That's what went through my head. So I rang Brian O'Driscoll. Are you familiar with Brian O'Driscoll?
Yeah, the rugby player.
Yeah. So Brian was still probably the best rugby player we've ever had. And he was captain in Ireland at the time. But I said, Brian, who's the best physio in Ireland? And he said, Mark McCabe, South Suffolk Street. Right, I think Mark is still in there. I haven't been there in years. I went, okay. But then I was thinking, okay, I'll go to him at some stage, but I need the best. They can't be in Ireland. Where are they? They have to be looking after footballers, Premiership footballers. So then I was like, who's in the top 3 Premiership teams in England? Liverpool at that time were number 1. I went, right, I'll go there. I've got to figure this out. So I networked like crazy. And don't forget, at that time, there was no real social media, lads. So there was nobody outside of Ireland knew me.
Yeah.
So I wasn't living off the coattails of me being like a celebrity here or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I managed to get my physio in Liverpool. So I went over to Liverpool. Victor Salinas, you can Google him afterwards. Victor Salinas was the lead physio in Liverpool at the time. So I got to him and I went over on 2 crutches. I'd just come out of a full leg cast. I was in a full leg cast for 6 weeks and I was in bits. And I pulled strings and I was paying him. And I lay down and he said, you can laugh, you can cry, you can sing, you can puke, you can do what you want, get ready. And then he just stuck his elbow into my leg. And then my leg hadn't moved in 6 weeks and they were supposed to have a limp for the rest of my life, right?
Yeah.
He sent me home on 1 crutch, but then I visualised myself every single day walking on stage in Vicar Street. I had a reason, I had a purpose. So I was visualising myself walking on stage in Vicar Street. And then I went back to him a couple of weeks later and he did the same again. And he got really angry at me because I had a crutch with me. So then he took the other crutch and he threw it across the room. He said, "Now you're going home, no crutch." And I said, And I went home and I remember I started crying in front of my wife. When I got home, I said, "Look, I can stand." And I was crying. She was like, "Why are you crying?" I said, "This is unbelievable, I can stand." And then I went out in the cold and the wet and the snow every day on my own. I used to live in Sandyford at the time. And I'd be crying with the pain now. But I walked and walked and walked. And then I walked on stage. Now, let me tell you, I was in a lot of pain. I'd iced me ankle backstage. So it wasn't like I was healed or cured. But I walked on stage with no limp. And the reason I mentioned your man, Mark McCabe, because then I started going to Mark McCabe in Ireland as the follow-up. And then he got me fully right. So now I've no limp. I'm full arthritis in that ankle. And I'm in physio now with another physio, Mark Keneally, who's a runner for Ireland. Because the pain shoots up into my knee. So because I have a 14 centimetre difference between my left ankle and my right ankle in terms of flexibility. But I don't really care. Like, as in, I'm here, I'm alive, I shouldn't be killed in a car accident. I don't care from the perspective of pain is pain, but it's putting in the work, not having the limp. I don't care once I don't have a limp. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's just my mindset. It's just like, just go, you know?
I was going to ask you, what was the hardest obstacle you've had to overcome? Would it be that?
I've had a lot. I think personal obstacles, that was probably the worst, right? Because I was touch or go whether I'd have a limp or not. I was touch or go that I'd have a foot because I was 5 minutes from amputation. And then I think our daughter, her birth was terrible. Like, luckily, like, she's amazing now. So again, even with her, just to use as an example, she was born with intermittent exotropia, which is a wandering eye, and then Erb's palsy, which is a paralysed arm. And when we were handed our baby, they said this could be permanent. We don't know. So they don't know with these things when baby is born if they're permanent or not, because it was nerve damage in her arm and nerve damage in her eye. And ultimately, again, I went to the formula, took massive action, figured out this system from Australia that nobody had ever heard of for her eye. So I started to train her eye, even as a baby, to try and start fixing her eye. And then her arm was fully paralysed and it hadn't moved in like 8 weeks or something, right? I hadn't moved at all. But every day I was doing physio with her all day, every day. But a lot of people give up because you're not seeing any results. But I just kept going. And then finally she moved her arm one day and then I kept at the physio. And then her arm healed. And it took a couple of years for her eye to heal. So we had to start patching her eye. You know the way you see sometimes kids would patch over the eye? Yeah. We had to patch her every day. Now, bear in mind, she ended up being a toddler. And she didn't want that patch on. She wanted to rip it off. And we had to be like strict parents and go, no, you've got to keep the patch on. And ultimately, we healed her eye. And now she's perfect. She's fine, right? So the point of that is, it's just that mindset of, doing the research. The research is key. And not going to every quack or trying to... And that's the problem now. We're in a society where AI... We won't know the difference. We kind of don't know the difference now, but in 6 months from now, we really won't know the difference. What's real, what's not real, what are real results. And that's where I say to people, go back to the books. Like, the real books that are already out there. Not, I would say, we need to be, research is great now. But if you want stuff about the mind, go back to the works of Joe Dispenza. Go back to the works of Les Brown and those types of people. Like Richard Bandler's another one. He wrote NLP, neuro linguistic programming. Like, he knows what he's talking about. That's when you know the stuff is real. And if you apply that to real life scenarios, then you know you're going to get results, you know.
I'm actually in the middle of a book right now called Grit. I'm not sure who wrote it. You know who wrote
Angela Duckworth.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
Familiar.
I probably have it. I have so many books. You know.
And she talks about working with the military and finding out, and she works with the military and college students to compare, are you able to measure a scale of grit? And she just talks about all these different projects that she does and the science behind it, and that's an amazing book.
Yeah. You know, I probably have it, so I'll probably have to dig it out and read it now that you've said it. You're one up with me.
Another
As
one
a man,
is the Chim Paradox. Do you ever?
Yeah, I have that.
I haven't read
it's
it
great.
yet, but I think
And do you read physical books or do you listen to audio?
Physical,
yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. See, that's the way to go. You're onto the right stuff, lads.
I read them with a highlighter, and anything that sticks out or stands out or resonates with me or I can bring into the real world, highlight it, and then when I finish the book, I read back over it.
Yeah.
And then say if I read another book, I'll do that. I'll read back over the highlighted parts, and then just before I start a new book, I'll go back to the original one and read over the highlighted parts again, just to really like get it into the brain. Like,
it's great. And how do you I'm interested, I'm intrigued. Like, how are you getting on at school?
I actually dropped out.
Did you?
I dropped out in fourth year. I'm doing an electrical apprenticeship.
Fair play.
Yeah,
but then you have time to read the books. That's why I was wondering like how you have time to read all these books and study as well. And you still in school?
I just kind of balance them both out as much as I can.
Like, as you were talking about at the start there, I was going to mention it. You were talking about burnt out and people feeling sort of sorry for themselves and this and that.
Yeah.
But like, I'm 17. I have a podcast. I have a business. I have the full-time job. I have things going on outside of that.
Yeah.
And I've to constantly be editing things, constantly posting things, constantly reaching out to people, constantly, as soon as the podcast's over, I'm going out dropping things in the car, and then I'm up at 6 a.m. for the job, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever feel burnt out, and I always find the time for the things that I want to do.
Yeah.
Because I have purpose in my life. I have a bit of drive. I have me why, as you said. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with.
But also, I'll tell you one other thing, right? So hopefully you're having fun doing this as well, right?
Yeah.
I think the world, on some level, has gotten very serious about this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, the stuff we're talking is quite deep, right? But I'm, like, I'll give you an example, right? Like, I'm still, like, hiding behind doors in my house doing jump scares on me missus. Do you know what I mean? I did one this morning. She was out of the car at 7 o'clock this morning, and I waited. The front door was wide open, but she was in, like, hoovering the car or something, and I had a mug of water, and I just waited for her to turn around. Now, it wasn't going to hit her in the face with this morning, but it just went, bah! And I choked it at her. Right? So I'm still having the crack all the way along. Yeah. And like, outside of what I do, like, I love to go fishing. Fishing's my thing, right? I'm completely obsessed with fishing, and that's, like, I have fun doing that. Then, like, me and the kids and the missus, like, we love escape rooms and stuff like that. So I think we can get very serious about this stuff, and it is deep and it is serious, but you have to remember to have fun, and people sometimes forget to have fun. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, it is about having the crack along the way and enjoying the journey. You know, like, some people, their success leads them to such a structured life that they don't seem to have much fun for spontaneity anymore. You know, so, like, I just don't know how much fun, like, what was the original podcaster? Oh, can't think of his name now. What you guys wouldn't know even, but there was a good guy. He was the original kind of podcaster back in the day, and he's still going now. But his life is so structured. I just wonder, is he actually having fun anymore? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even Stephen Bartlett, like, I'd love to be on the Diary of a CEO, like, as a guest. But I'd actually say, Stephen, you actually having the crack still, because I know his day is structured down to, like, a minute everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's not too much fun in that. Like, I hope he is still having fun. I don't know. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But, like, you know, there comes a moment where, you know, I'm in the gym, I'm going to get a certain percentage of body fat, and then I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. And it becomes so structured. You have to leave room for spontaneity. You have to leave room for fun. Doesn't have to be all the time, but you got to have that, like, you know, 5-10% just let loose. You know, jump on a plane, or go golfing, or do crazy golf, or go to the woods and hang out of a tree, or whatever your thing is. Like, go karting, right? I go karting all the time with the kids down to Kylemore. I love it down there, right? Just, you know, a couple of hours go karting and just doing things that I really enjoy doing. And that sounds obvious, right? You question the average person in business at my age, are they going go-kart with their kids? Are they climbing trees? I still climb trees. Are they going on foraging courses? Are they like, these are the things I like to do because they're fun and I like to learn new things. But that's what I mean. You don't always have to be Mr. Mindful and Mr. Structured either. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You don't have to answer this question, but I'm just curious. Who's the most famous person in your phone?
Oh, probably. I'm not giving it to you guys, just before you ask for the number. I would say the most famous. Well, you tell me. Is Woody Harrelson more famous than Bono, or is Bono more famous than Woody Harrelson?
We're young, so I'd say Bono.
Yeah, probably Bono. So, Bono, Woody Harrelson, and Nicole Scherzinger. They're probably the top ones. But I've got a good few more as well. Like,
what's the best piece of advice you have ever received?
It's from my dad. I swear, it drilled into my own kids. Panic achieves nothing.
Daily.
Panic is the first go-to for everyone in every scenario, right? You start panic. Panic achieves nothing. So my dad drilled that into me. I drilled it into my kids. Like, I drill it into them. And as far as I can see, like, they don't panic, even in extreme environment. Like, my mother was over my house about a year and a half ago, and I heard her screaming, you know? She screams a lot. Like, if there's a fly or a wasp, she's screaming. So I was like, whatever. So I didn't move. I was sitting down watching telly. And it was just crap telly. Like, I was just actually watching crap telly. I was like tired, just gonna watch some. And I could hear her scream. Anyway, I didn't go to her. And but then the scream turned into a scream that I wasn't really familiar with. And I was like, oh, I better check this. So I went in. And when I went in, because I fish a lot, she was using a fillet knife and she was cutting bread, which you should never do with a fillet knife, and it slipped. And basically she sliced her finger nearly clean off. So the finger was hanging off and I could see the bone, like, you know. And she was squeaking, yeah. And I was like, oh, we got to go to the hospital, Mum. It's just your finger's hanging off there. And I was real, like, this is me in those emergency scenarios. I've been in them before. I'm just real. And she's like, what? I was like, we're going to the hospital right now. And I just popped her finger back on, like, and I said, we just got to wrap that up there now, Mum. And I was real calm. And the same thing happened with my wife. Not the same thing, but like, we were on our honeymoon in Mauritius and we were snorkeling and we went back to the boat and the guy in the boat, he threw one of those, you know, those kind of step ladders that kind of unfolds down into the water, and they're made of metal, so it unfolded down. But when it unfolded down, it unfolded onto her fingernail, and it pulled her fingernail clean out her hand, right? Fingernail just gone, and she was screaming, and she was panicking, and there was other people in the water because there was like 6 other couples there, and I just get on the boat and I just go into Sergeant Major mode, and I go, you get up out of the water, and they're like, what? Just shut up, get up out of the water. They didn't know what was going on. I said, you start the engine. And the guy was, I'm so sorry, mister, I'm so sorry. Like, look, don't be sorry. And I was talking to the miss, put your hand in the water. No, shut up, put your hand in the water. So I just go into, like, I suppose, I don't know, like sergeant mode. I just take control of the situation, don't panic. But like, I'd be dead if I panicked, because like I've done a lot of underwater stunts, like escapes, as part of my act. And sometimes they're going wrong. And if they go wrong, if you panic in that scenario, there's a good chance you could actually die. People might think, oh, it's just an illusion. No, I know. Like, there's a friend of mine, absolutely amazing human being. Jonathan Goodwin. He was known as the Daredevil, or is known as the Daredevil. And he was doing all these kind of mad stunts and escapes. And he did one on America's Got Talent, the Extreme Edition. And it went wrong. It involved him hanging upside down. And he was doing an escape, and it went wrong. And Jonathan's in a wheelchair now. And he'll be in a wheelchair most likely for life because it went wrong. So these things can go wrong. And he didn't panic. That was just an accident that happened with him, and that's his own story to tell. But for me, even with the underwater escapes and things like that, if I panic, I die. So yeah, the best advice, panic achieves nothing. Another one I learned, you won't believe this, but this is funny. I've never told this to anyone before. I was sitting down on a Jack's in Galway. So sitting on the toilet in Galway, I remember closing the door, and I read a quote on the back of the door, and I never forgot it. It was mad that I read it on the back of the door. It was like scrawled in pen on the back of the door in UCG, which is University College Galway, which is now NUIG. Anyway, it was, the faster you fall behind, the more time you have to catch up. I thought that's really interesting.
The faster you fall behind, the more time you have to catch up.
Yeah, so you know about people, we always say, I don't have time, I'm out of time. No, the faster you fall behind, the more time. So if you fall behind, just understand you still have time to catch up. So there's always time. That's what I learned from that. There's always time. So that's why I say to people who are 66 and unhappy, you know, you still have time. Like, you have time until you're dead. Like, even if you're sick, you have time.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, those moments resonate with me, you know. So those are the quotes and the sayings that I kind of live by. And then just NGU. Like, I swear to God, when my kids were young, I used to scream out the door at them. And I was the dad, the embarrassing dad, because I do it for the crack. I do it to wind them up. Like.
Yeah.
But I knew it used to seep in. There's two things I'd say to my kids, but I live by them. NGU, which is just never give up. And I'd be screaming it out the door. And then I would always say every day, and I said it to my son this morning, gospel truth, I said it to my son. I was like, find someone sad today and make them happy.
Deadly.
And do they actually go into school and find someone sad and make them happy? Probably not. Not consciously, but subconsciously, I know that that's going into them because I'm programming them every day. And like, you know, if you want to use my kids as an example, I'm not a pushy father. So in other words, I don't push them into certain things. In my world, in the magic world, a lot of people push magic on their kids and they get them to go on stage and stuff. And you can see these kids are actually inherently unhappy. They're not really into it. So I just surrounded my kids with loads of things when they were young. But ultimately, to cut the chase, like, I hypnotized both of them. So they got into karate. And I hypnotized both of them a couple of years ago for the World Championships in Kempo Karate. So my kids are actually the World Kempo Karate champions.
Totally.
The two of them at the respective age group. And even this year they're going to the World Championships in Athens. So I'll re-hypnotize them for that because they want to do it. And like they're like a good example of, if you mentally program somebody or if you mentally program yourself, you don't need me, you don't need another hypnotist, just do it yourself. Just learn how to do it. And then, yeah, you can achieve anything, you know.
It's amazing. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
That's a problem. And the reason it's a problem is I haven't had time. Normally I'd have an answer for that.
Yeah.
I haven't had time to sit down and map out the next 5 years. So my tour, Unhinged, don't forget to come to the 3 Arena, February 7th, right? I'll put you on the guest list, lads, right? How about that?
Yeah, legend.
Right.
Thanks.
So,
I was actually going to say I would buy tickets off them.
No, I'll put you on the guest list. So,
if you need someone on the stage...
Well, it could happen now. It could happen.
Yeah, I'll be in the crowd with the handle.
So the tour is over on March 14th. So I've said to myself, after Paddy's Day, stop spending so much time online. Like, honestly, just be so mindful of where you're spending your time, because the more this AI is coming in and the more people are trying to capture your attention, you have to be so mindful of where your attention is going. So the anxiety that's out there, the depression that's out there, it seems like everybody is struggling, you know? And I understand the struggle, but a large part, not fully, but a large part of the struggle is because of the amount of time we're all spending online. So being mindful of where you're spending your time for the youth of today is so key. And people listen to this and go, yeah, whatever, and then they'll go back on Snapchat, right? Or go back on whatever it is, Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is, right? But again, you know, I'll repeat it. Whatever you see can never be unseen. Whatever you hear can never be unheard subconsciously. So it's just being mindful where your focus is going. And then the other thing is taking inspiration from people like you. Like people who are... Don't listen to me. Don't listen to the old man in the room. Listen to the two of you. You're honestly the most inspirational people of your generation I've met in years. Besides my own kids, right? But you know what I mean? And just like listen to people like you guys, and back to what you said at the start, like not taking the piss out of you, actually learning from you and going, actually these guys know what they're talking about. And you know, just being those role models, and then not getting caught up when you get that success, not getting caught up in the success. Like I know somebody also not that much older than you guys who you would know, and he's just getting very bling blingy all of a sudden, and I'm like, here we go again now, you know what I mean? And it's like, God, why can't you just be normal? Like, so, and the other thing is, to people out there, like, just be sound to each other. Like, you know, stop being hypercritical and stop analysing everybody else. Analyse yourself first. And we're all talking about, you know the way you hear these days, you know, be kind, hashtag be kind. Well, that starts with just a bit of empathy, like understanding, especially at your age, understanding that that person might be going through something at home that you don't know about, understanding that person who might be one day a bit short with you, they could be getting a beating at home, they could be having a terrible home life, they might be struggling at school or whatever it is. So instead of being nice, just be sound. Can we all just be sound to each other here and help each other out? It's like me just turning up here and just trying to help you guys out. Like, you know, always just be mindful of what other people are going through. And the other thing, the most important thing actually for your generation is stop when you're walking down the street, right? Look at people in the eyes and get ready to say hello. Yeah, I look at every single person. Yeah. Now, I'm obsessed with this. I'm in a supermarket. I'm walking out of here. You saw me saying hello to the guy who opened the door or whatever. I didn't know who he was. I saw you guys in the background. I knew what you looked like. But I was saying hello to... I'm ready to say hello to everybody. Not because I'm in the public eye. I was born like that. I was brought up like that. And just getting ready to smile and make somebody's day. And that's why I loop back to my kids. Find someone sad and make them happy. Why not? It's the most brilliant thing you can do. Just being sound to people,
More just popped into my head. From what you told me, your life seems to be like a movie. What has been the highlight of your life, of your career?
And look, I've had a lot, right? To be fair, a lot of highlights, that is. A lot of low times as well, but the highlights, headlining in Vegas, definitely up there for sure. Winning Mentalist of the Year. So, I won Mentalist of the Year, and I got an award for that, and that was by the International Magician Society. It's called the Merlin Award, so that's like the Oscars of magic. So winning one of those was bananas. I also won the James Joyce Award by UCD, so that was amazing as well, because not too many people have gotten that either. And it's the highest kind of accolade that you can get. But then there's one coming up. I'm not being smart about this. I'm not saying it because I want people to come along, but at the end of the day, the 3 Arena will be the biggest live show I've ever done. Right, outside of that one that I actually mentioned Woody Harrelson earlier. So I brought Woody Harrelson over to Waterford one time for the Winterville Festival, and I performed outside for 10,000 people. There was 10,000 people on the streets of Waterford, and I did a big escape where I was hanging from a crane upside down with my head wrapped in cling film, my body wrapped in ropes and chains and a straitjacket. So that would have been a highlight for sure, because it was 10,000 people. But from an indoor venue perspective, the 3 Arena would be the biggest venue I've ever played, with the most amount of people I've ever played to. So that's coming up for sure. It's going to be a highlight coming, and then the other ones are just personal ones, just having kids and memories with the kids, and and just being present as well. So highlights for me are just being present at my dad's 70th birthday, because we're all there as a family. So I remember that, though. I remember we surprised him, and that sticks out as a memory. So there's personal ones, but from a professional standpoint, it's probably those ones I just mentioned. And then also my CBS special, I think. I've done hundreds of hours of television, but the CBS special was special because David Copperfield had been in CBS for 20 years, and then I kind of knocked him out and did my own specials. That was amazing. And that was the one where I had Matthew McConaughey on as a guest, and Nicole Scherzinger, had her on as a guest. And
still in touch with Matthew?
Not Matthew, still in touch with Nicole.
Really?
Yeah, know Nicole quite well, yeah.
Daily. Is there anything you wish we had of asked you, or anything you think we can improve going into the next episode?
Nothing. I think just keep doing what you're doing, and then just don't grow too quick. You don't need anything else except what you have in here already. Yeah. You just need microphones and 2 cameras. Very often the temptation in your world is save a bit of money and then go into some big podcaster studio and pay a couple of producers to produce and stuff. I say just do it yourself the way you're doing it, and just keep being you. And there's no questions you haven't asked me. Your questions have been quite brilliant. I'm actually very impressed by you. You have no iPad or no notes or nothing, and you're still able to just off the cuff ask questions. Even Stephen Bartlett has a little iPad in front of him, I believe.
Thanks a lot. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, lads. And I'll see you on stage at the 3 Arena.
Social media, and where can they buy their tickets?
Yeah, so it's at Keith Barry on Instagram, mainly for people listening here, or keithbarry.com, and tickets. Yeah, keithbarry.com, our usual spots, Ticketmaster, or the director with the 3 Arena. Yeah.
And success isn't about what you have; it's what you do with what you have until you're able to do or get more. That's it. And Glenn, keep it.
Love it.
Stay small enough, long enough, you'll be big enough, soon enough.
Yeah. I love that. Thanks, lads.
Thank you.